Trigger warning, this episode includes detailed discussion of gun violence, school shootings, suicide, disturbing writings, and hate speech. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Welcome back to Macabre Mondays, where mystery meets the macabre with your favorite deadly merry duo. I'm Ale.
And I'm Tom.
Your guides through the strange, the sinister, and the spooky, where I tell the stories and he gets dragged along for the ride.
Always dragged.
We are here for our part 2.
Part 2?
Now, I know last week was a very heavy episode. I mean, this episode's still going to be...
It's a very...
pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel that... I can't. And also, we are recording this today, and we just had another mass shooting take place in Minneapolis, and I feel
it's
a lot.
It's a tough. These types of stories, all of our stories are difficult to cover.
Yes.
Unless it's paranormal, because paranormal to me is more, it's spooky.
I know it's a different type of macabre. Yes. I think this is just because like the paranormal stuff, we're still talking about real people or urban legends or, ghost stories or whatever. But I know what you mean. I think when it comes to kids, just innocent people, it's tough. And seeing today that was...
There's certain episodes I feel like between both of us, we kind of bring a little bit of a lighter side to, I don't want to say reporting the story because we're not reporting it, but
yeah, I know what you mean. Like sometimes you have to,
to where it doesn't feel so dark and heavy.
Right.
But with stuff like this, there's just not,
there's nothing you can say. Yeah.
It's difficult to deal with and
just to even hear and experience or just witness or I just can't. And then seeing today on the news that there was another mass shooting at a freaking church school, like a Catholic church school.
It's tough.
Yeah. And I think it was, what was it? An 8-year-old and a 10-year-old passed away from it. And others were injured. I just can't. Like, to me, it's just insane. And so I also feel, and another thing that's just, I find crazy that I was seeing on the news about today's mass shooting was that the gunman was actually idolized the Columbine shootings. And I was like, wow, are you kidding me? Like, are you joking? That is, I just feel, it's just really sad. So, and that's why when we were covering the Columbine shootings and I did the part 1 and we're going to get into part 2 right now. I really just wanted to give the survivors, while also those that tragically their lives were taken without them even having any choice in the matter. I also want to give them a place to live. I want to talk about them. I learned so much about them when I was researching the case. I had learned about Columbine growing up. I knew about it, but like this was just such a more in-depth, I don't know. I just felt like I could actually know them for who they were, not just, the victims at Columbine. So I wanted you guys to also meet them. Also see who they were, what their families said about them, who they were before this even happened, and who they would have even became if they had the chance to live, because unfortunately they were stripped of that decision. Like they were just not.
Yeah.
So this episode is going to still be a little bit heavy for sure. We're going to be talking a lot about the survivors, about those whose lives were lost, remembering Columbine as a whole as well, and just talking more about them, of who they were. I might get a little teary-eyed. I might choke up, and I'm only human, so bear with me. This was a very, very heavy case. I mean, they're all heavy, like I've said. We've reiterated it plenty of times in part 1, but yeah, it's just proceed with caution, please. This whole episode's a trigger, and where we left off was at the end of this massacre. 13 lives were taken, 12 students, 1 teacher, 24 individuals were injured. I mean, countless of other victims as well who were just there that day, the trauma that must hold. So I want to take this moment to speak about the victims of Columbine and who they were, because I learned so much about them. The beautiful, bright, amazing humans who were taken away from this life. There's a website called acolumbinesite.com that's been around for many, many years. It's privately run by someone who pretty much compiles news clippings, public records, and most importantly, personal tributes. It's pretty much like a memorial website, but they have everything of anything on there. So I leaned in heavy on it because they talked, you could really get personal accounts of each of the victims and kind of really get to know who they were as people. It's pretty much a memorial page, a place to remember everyone who was impacted. But I have to give you a trigger. If you go on that website, there is content that is graphic and disturbing, because they also do have pretty much all the links of everything. Anything that has ever been compiled from the Columbine shooting in and thereafter is on there. So just please, if you do go on the site, just be wary. There's a lot of positive things on there as well, a lot of negatives. So just trigger warning. Now, I want to just give the victims their own place because they deserve it. Rachel Joy Scott, she was 17 years old. She was a student. She was an aspiring performer and artist, outgoing, and was known for her kindness. Her middle school described her as saying that she was such a joy to be around. And in high school, she deliberately reached out to 3 groups of people and wrote about it in her diary. She wrote, "I want to reach out to those with special needs because they are often overlooked. I want to reach out to those who are new in school because they don't have any friends yet. And I want to reach out to those who are picked on or put down by others."
Damn.
She's a freaking angel. I can't. One of the quotes that she had was, "Look hard enough and you will always find a light, and you can even help that light grow."
Damn.
I know. When she was 13 years old, she traced the outline of her hands on the back of her dresser and wrote, "These hands belong to Rachel Joy Scott and will someday touch millions of people's hearts."
I think I remember seeing the photo of the
she
parents
was one of those,
moving it and seeing that.
Yes, because it's all like, there's also even a website. It's like the rachelscottmovement.org, I think it is. And it's got all the memories of her and what they do today to remember her, and also all the other charities that they help, because she was also part of church. She was the one that I told you that Craig Scott was her brother, and she was the first that was shot outside of the west entrance when the attack began. Now, Daniel Lee Roberg, he was 15. He was a freshman. He loved electronics and computer games. He was remembered as a funny guy and was looking forward to getting his driver's permit soon. He helped in his father's stereo business, Excalibur sound systems, every day after school. And during the summer, he worked on his grandfather's farm in Kansas, harvesting wheat, as he had done.
Damn.
Yes, ever since he was 3.
Yo, that boy definitely. I mean, I'm looking at the photos and you can tell his dad's definitely got that build.
Yes.
But you can tell his high school. I'm assuming that top right is one of the more recent photos that we had of him. But you can tell that boy's got a build, and that is a farmer build.
Yes. You could tell hardworking. No, seriously, so hardworking. And he used the money that he was making to buy Christmas presents for his family.
Damn.
For his fucking family. What a sweetheart. He was unfortunately shot near the west entrance stairs, but Dan was actually heading out of the cafeteria that morning with friends Lance Kirkland and Sean Graves when they opened fire. There was pretty much no warning for Danny, and there was no chance. It happened. Lance actually tried to catch him, but was shot as well in the moment.
Holy shit.
Yes. Kyle Albert Velasquez, he was 16. He was a sophomore. He was the one in the library that I said had special needs. He loved firefighters and trains. He enjoyed chores and family activities. A lot of his family described him as a gentle giant, which he looks so freaking cute. I love him. When he was a baby, he suffered a stroke, and that's what left him mentally disabled.
Oh, damn.
But ever since then, he's still been this affectionate and sincere. He loved nothing more than helping his dad, Albert, out around the house, putting up shelves, mowing the lawn, washing the car, whatever he needed, he was there. Every day he would kiss his mom, Phyllis, on the cheek, and tell her that he loved her. He dreamed of joining the Navy like his dad or becoming a firefighter. He also loved computers. He had been sitting at the computer tables when he was in the library when that happened. He was actually buried with military honors in Fort Logan National Cemetery in Denver, Colorado, since his father was a Navy veteran. His parents were given the flags from his coffin, and the one that was flown at half-mast is Kyle's honor at the state capitol. So they flew his flag at half-mast at the state capitol. Yes. Steve Robert Conroe, which, by the way, everybody, I'm going to be posting a photo of each of the victims and, photos from when they were kids, from when they got older and all that, just because, they were such beautiful souls, and I learned so much about them each individually that you guys all need to know about them as well. Steve Robert Conroe, he was 14. He was a freshman. He was one of the youngest ones of the victims, unfortunately, but he was a movie lover. He planned to become a Navy Navy Top Gun pilot.
Damn.
Yes.
Okay, Maverick.
Okay, right. He loved soccer, and his favorite color was green because of the soccer field. His favorite classes were Spanish, tech, and gym because of the sports aspect, because he loved sports. He also loved Star Wars so much that he could actually recite certain movies.
Yo, that's insane.
I know. And also how clever you have to be. Star Wars is like a whole nother level.
I was going to say, there's a lot of dialogue, and I don't even know how short the shortest Star Wars is, but I can guarantee it's over 2 hours.
Exactly. Now, his parents were divorced, and a few weeks before the shootings, he actually told his father that he forgave him for the mistakes that he made that led them to becoming divorced. His sister Nancy said at the funeral that she was going to miss fighting with Steve over whose turn it was to take out the garbage and whose turn it was to use the computer. She said that she wondered who would tell stories to her own children about what she was like growing up, that she'd been counting on her little brother to do that. So that was hard. But his mom wrote a note to Steve that was read at his funeral that said, "Thank you for the special moment 2 weeks ago when you said, 'Mom, I bet there aren't many guys who can discuss things with their moms like we do.'" My heart. Which, if you guys hear me crying, is because I am. I think it's only human nature, but he was the youngest of the victims, like I said. Cassie Renee Bernal, she was 17. She was a junior. She was a member of a church youth group. Her parents nicknamed her Bunny Rabbit. She loved to go rock climbing. Her favorite movie was Braveheart. I'm like,
damn, that's a hard ass movie.
I would have loved to have been friends with all of them. Like, they just wait. It's like they're all just so amazing, beautiful souls. She had a rough road to self-discovery as a teen, like so many of us have, because, we're trying to figure ourselves out in our personality. She was doing the same thing, just kind of trying to figure out who she was as a person. She battled with depression and suicidal thoughts, but she actually found her way back to religion after attending a church summer camp in 1997, where she became a born-again Christian, which is amazing. That fall, her parents actually allowed her to transfer out of the private school that she was in and into Columbine High, where she did really well in her classes. She got into Shakespeare and photography. She was in the library. She was one of the victims in the libraries. Witness statements said that she was hiding under the table when Patty Nelson, the librarian, entered. But in 1999, her mom was on the Oprah show, and she said that I keep thinking about the things I need to do for Cassie. And then I catch myself, I don't need to do that. The Lord is taking care of those mom things I used to do. Her mom wrote on her coffin, "Bunny Rabbit, my friend, my buddy, my daughter, my mentor. I will love you and miss you forever. I promise to take good care of your kitty. I know that Jesus is elated to have you in his presence. Your courage and commitment to Christ have gained you a special place in heaven, and I am proud to call you my daughter. I love you so much, Mom." Isaiah Eamon Scholes, he was 18. He was a senior. He was talented in music, one of the very few African-American students, like I mentioned. He wanted to be a comedian and a music executive because he played the keyboard. He also wanted to be like his father. His father was the president of Notorious Records in Fort Knox Entertainment. He created it to promote Black musicians in the Denver area. His friends nicknamed him Bushwick. He was actually born with a heart defect, but his parents said that he was a fighter who overcame his disability and went on to play football and wrestle. And he had actually played cornerback for the previous years on the football team, but his father claimed that he quit. He possibly thinks that it could have been because of racial intimidation. I mean, he was one of the very few Black African Americans. Unfortunately, he was also one of the ones in the library, like I said, that was pulled out.
He was with the Scott brother?
Yes, Craig Scott and Matt Ketchner. Yes. And Isaiah was such a popular boy. In the Columbine principal, Frank DeAngelis, said that his classmates would compete to work on school projects with him. And he said, I also read that everybody in the school bus wanted to sit by him because he was so funny. Like, he was such a great guy to be around, such a great presence. The school principal, Frank DeAngelis, he said, Isaiah Scholes, thank you for having such a positive impact on your school, on our school, and on our family. You will be greatly missed, and I love you, my dear child, he said at Isaiah's funeral. Classmates and friends said that he is definitely smiling down on us. I know he is. He also had a younger brother who was a freshman and was outside with a friend when the shooting started, so thankfully he was okay. I also read more about when he was buried. It was an open casket, and his family buried him in a college cap and gown. Oh. Yes, because he was a senior. Matthew Joseph Ketcher, who was also with him, he was 16. He was a sophomore. He was an honor roll student, straight A's, and a football player. He played both offense and defense, which that's insane. I feel like I can only stick to one. So that's amazing. I think
it was a lot more common too in middle school and high school, I think.
They're like, we don't got that many players. We're going to need you out there. Yes. I thought that was so cool though. He was a weightlifter. I thought that was awesome. I was going to say, he looks like he had body build. Yes. He got built to him. And he always had good grades. He was remembered for his laugh. His parents, when they spoke at his funeral, they said how he was such a wonderful role model for his little brother. They had said their brotherhood had just recently developed into a bonding friendship. In Matt's heart, there was always enough room for everyone to be victorious. He was also in the library. He was under the table. He was sitting with his friend Greg Scott, the brother of victim Rachel Scott. One of his close friends, Greg Barnes, said that when he found out that he was one of the ones that was a victim in the library, he said it only made sense because he was always in the library studying. He always put his academics first.
Damn.
Now, Greg Barnes, although he wasn't, I mean, they were all victims, but he wasn't killed when the shooting happened. Unfortunately, he did commit suicide after the first anniversary of the shootings. So I still add him to the list because there's nothing that really states that he shot himself because of the shootings. But if you put 2 and 2 together, it's kind of hard not to think about them not correlating and probably the effects that it took on him. He was also one of the ones that witnessed the teacher, Dave Sanders, that ended up getting fatally wounded. He was really close with Matt Ketcher, one of the ones who was also, like I said, he was shot and killed. And it seemed like he was struggling invisibly with what he kind of seen and depression. And unfortunately, he took his life. Yeah, after the year anniversary. Lauren Dawn Townsend. She was 18. She was a senior. She was a valedictorian candidate, captain of girls varsity volleyball team. She was a member of the National Honor Society. She never received a B in her life. She was a straight A student, and her nickname was Lulu. She was also a very talented sketch artist and would volunteer at a local animal shelter. She planned to study biology at the Colorado State University. She was also one of the victims in the library. Her brother Josh played a tribute video filled with moments from her life. Many of her teachers spoke at her funeral, commending her gentle nature and loving spirit, as well as her academic excellence. Her coffin was white, as a lot of these victims' coffins were white, so that the people that were attending her funeral could write on it, much like they would do in a yearbook. Her father wrote on her coffin and said, "Lulu, you'll always be my baby." But also, I just want to say, all these students were so good at school. That is amazing. I feel like you don't really... maybe I've been hanging out with the wrong crowd.
I was going to say, maybe it's where you grew up.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I'm hanging out with the wrong crowd. I'm like, my God, we lost so... Like, to think already of those I've named and those I will continue to name just now, of what they would have brought to this world, what they would have become, the things that they would have, it's just so sad to think of. John Robert Tomlin, he was 16, he was a sophomore. He loved sports and working on cars, specifically Chevrolet trucks. Okay, good taste. He had recently actually gotten his driver's license and had just bought an old Chevy pickup that he had been working for since he was 14 years old.
Holy shit.
He was off-roading. He enjoyed off-roading Rocky Mountains. He once drove all the way to Mexico to help build a house for a poor family. He enjoyed four-wheeling in his truck and lifting weights. He was part of the Riverside Baptist Church South youth group, and that's where he ended up meeting his girlfriend, Michelle, of 7 months, and they were pretty much inseparable. She actually ended up saying that he treated her like the queen of the world, which I'm like, oh, damn. Of course you would, John. My gosh. His mom had said he had such a sense of humor. He was always making goofy faces. And his father also mentioned that he was as close to as a perfect son as you could get. He's just good. You'd ask him to wash a car and he'd wash both cars. He worked after school and at weekends at this nursing acre kind of area where he would haul trees and drive tractors for 30 hours a week. According to friends, he always wore the same thing to work: carpenter pants, mud-caked boots, a blue cap, and a jacket featuring his favorite team, the Green Bay Packers. He planned to join the Army when he graduated. His truck, this is another thing I'll mention, his truck and Rachel Scott's car became actually a very standing memorial in the parking lot. Thursday following the shootings, his family gathered around the truck despite the fact that it was raining. They placed his Bible was sitting on the dashboard where he always left it and hoped that someone would see something there that would bring them closer to God. His grandfather, John Francis, his father and other family members took turns sitting in the truck. And there are photos. Shit. Yes, there are photos of people just, filling it with cards, with flowers, with teddy bears. Like, it was a memorial. Like, it also stood as a kind of a symbolism of time standing still. Yeah. He was also one of the victims in the library as well. When he was in the library, he did help another victim, Nicole Nolan, hide with him under a table because she was really scared. He held her hand to comfort her, and when John heard one of the shooters harassing Valine Schnurr, which I think it was Dylan that they said was harassing her after she was shot, he confronted him, but they opened fire on both him and Nicole. Damn. He was buried in a satin-lined coffin of green and gold, the colors of his favorite team, Green Bay Packers, and it was embroidered with Chevy trucks on them.
That's actually really cool.
I know. That's so beautiful. Kelly Ann Fleming, she was 16. She was an aspiring writer. She was shy, but she was very creative. She's my girl. She loves Halloween.
Oh, Lord, Come here on. We go.
And I love, I was looking at photos of her, and she has such a gentle, they all have this, the innocence behind them, such a gentle soul. She was an aspiring songwriter and author. She wrote poems and showed stories based on her life experiences. She would actually enter writing contests. She was actually writing an autobiography, and most of her stories always had happy endings. She was learning how to drive and wanted to save up enough money to buy a Mustang or a Corvette.
Good taste.
Good taste. She loved to read books about vampires.
Oh, Lord, this is literally...
She's amazing. 2 months before the shooting, her mom, Dee, remembered her saying, "I'm not shy anymore," because she was relatively shy at the time, and it seemed like she kind of was spreading her wings. She broke out of her shell. She was also one of the victims in the library. She was sitting with Lisa Kreutz, Gianna Park, DeWatta Perez, Valine Schnurr, and Lauren Townsend, which... Yeah. Daniel Connor Mausar. He was 15. He was a sophomore, excellent student and member of the debate team. He was so good at math and science. His family remembers him as such a smart young man that wasn't afraid of challenges, was never afraid to hug his parents and show them love. He also joined the cross-country team. He liked to ski, he liked to camp, and he had recently returned from a 2-week trip from Paris with the French club.
Damn.
I know. He had received straight A's and was awarded the Stretch for Excellence Award. His family said that he was shy but gentle soul, loving and kind. He liked pepperoni pizza, playing video games and computer games, and enjoyed watching shows like The Simpsons and X-Files.
Dude, Simpsons were the shit.
Yeah.
That was the shit in the 2000s and the 90s.
It really was, yeah. And to me, I'm like, man, what a time. What a time. He was one of the victims in the library as well. He was actually concerned with gun safety in America. And 2 weeks before he was killed, Daniel had actually asked his father if he knew that there were loopholes in the Brady bill. And Tom was actually motivated by what he interpreted it as kind of like a sign for action. So when Daniel was shot with a gun that was purchased through one of those very loopholes he had pointed out, Tom, his dad, is now an active protester of the NRA and continues to campaign for stricter gun laws in the wake of his son's tragic death.
That is actually insane.
Yeah.
One, that he was that smart and everything, but two, that he broke down a bill to be able to figure out where the loopholes were and then knew that they weren't good loopholes.
Yeah. And not long after the shootings, Daniel's family, along with a lot of families of the shooting victims, learned that the school district was planning to reopen the library where Daniel and a lot of his other friends and colleagues had died. Apparently the plan was to make just cosmetic changes, but a lot of people were really upset by that because they're like, no, there's just so much, we just can't just paint over it. It's not going to be enough. So the Mausers, along with several other parents and volunteers, founded HOPE, which stands for Healing of People Everywhere. And together they convinced the district to tear out the old library and just replace it. Just put a whole new library
As
in.
As
they should, for real. I also was watching one of the interviews I saw. One of the victims was saying that because in the library, there was also like offices in the back, certain rooms, and they were kind of closed off in there. Thankfully, they survived. Some of the people that were in there, the victims that were in there as well, they were talking the whole time about pretty much death while the shootings are happening in the library because they don't, they're like, we hope we don't die. We don't know what's going on outside. All they know is that they barricaded the door. And they talked about how, they had so much more time to live and they were talking about death and it was very, very macabre. But they actually went on the ceiling tile and they kind of wrote their name. So then if they were found or they weren't, people would know that they were in there. Yes, that they were in there. And they said that after the anniversary, I think it was a couple years later, after the anniversary, when they went back, they actually went in there to see if their names were there, but they painted it over because of the whole revamp of the library and stuff. I'm telling you, there's so many. It's called Ripples of Columbine. If anybody's interested, you can find it on YouTube. Those who were comfortable speaking out victims, it was like, I think it was the 20th anniversary. A lot of them have spoken out since, and they've really all just kind of just stories like that, even tidbits like that, it just really paints you the picture of what they experienced that day, what other people probably experienced as well going through these school shootings. It's just such a sad event. Corey Tyler DePuter, he was 17. He was a junior. He loved fishing in the outdoors, hiking, golf, hunting. He loved to wrestle, and fishing was his passion. He had started working at a golf club and wanted to save enough money to buy a boat with a friend. He loved school so much that he actually was upset that he had to miss school once because his wisdom teeth were removed. That's how much he loved school. Yes. I was like, I'm like, what amazing people they were in students, because me,
for real,
I would have been like,
I was going to say, I took every opportunity. I said, oh, I need a dentist appointment. Mom, can you schedule it for a weekday? Yeah, seriously. His sister Jenna was a freshman and he taught her how to fly fish. And she says that she imagines him doing something that he loves now, wherever he is. He was one of the victims that in the library as well. He was hiding in the library with his best friend, Austin Eubanks, Jennifer Doyle, and Peter Ball. His best friend, Austin, said people said he was the kind of guy people like to be around. I know I sure did. Corey was always able to pick our spirits up in a gloomy situation. His friend Austin always spoke about his best friend Corey. His mom believes that Corey would have wanted them to move on and he wouldn't have liked them to be moping around. He always wanted to be in the Marine Corps. So after he passed, his grandmother reached out to the Marines about holding some type of ceremony. And on May 3rd of 2000, during a ceremony at his gravesite, they made him an honorary Marine. Damn.
Now, Austin did survive the shooting. Sadly, he dies from a drug overdose on May 18th of 2019. He was struggling with opioids after the shooting because he was recovering from the injuries that he sustained from the shootings. And he even has a TED Talk that he talks about, which was like a few years earlier before he passes away. And he talks a lot about, it was very insightful if anybody's interested in seeing it. It was called What the Columbine Shooting Taught Me About Pain and Addiction. It's so deep. He talks about opioid addiction. He talks about a lot of the insight because he speaks from his own experience from when he was shot and what statistics say. And he said that when he was in the hospital, he was pretty much offered that for his pain. But what he was stating was that a lot of the time, opioid addiction doesn't help heal pain, like physical pain. It actually heals mental pain, which is what he was enduring at the time. There's really no cure for that. And one of the things that he said that really stuck with me in his TED Talk was, he said, in order to heal it, you have to feel it, which is really sad.
Stuff,
yes. Yeah. And so he says a lot of the times, like, we are so desensitized with people who have addiction because of how many people have addiction, pretty much, which is just so sad because he's also another ripple. And because of what happened at Columbine, he survived, but ultimately he was never the same.
His life was still taken, though, in some aspect.
Exactly. William Dave Sanders, he was 47. He was the teacher. He was business and computer teacher and also the coach of the girls' basketball and softball teams. He was working at Columbine for 25 years. He was a father of 4 children and 5 grandchildren. His students all said that he was not just a teacher, but a friend and a mentor and such an inspiration to so many. Since he has passed, he had a softball field at Columbine and a scholarship named after him to honor his memory. And he also received the Arthur Ashe Award for Courage. They also named a highway with his name.
I mean, again, to me, for something like that, 100% deserves it.
100%.
I also feel like I have few teachers that I can think of that 100% probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah, because he actually was shepherding. He was shepherding the students to safety, and because of him doing that, he was shot.
Yeah.
He pretty much bled to death waiting for medical help. And when the murderers were firing outside of the school, he actually ran to the cafeteria to sound the alarm, to just kind of alert more people like, hey, let's get out of the school. Him and 2 other janitors actually helped get more than 100 students escape to safety, if that, maybe even more. So in reality, he saved so many freaking lives because of him sacrificing his yes. And by the time that the murderers got to the cafeteria, it was practically empty because of him. So he was in the upstairs hallway trying to help more students to safety, and that's when he was shot by Eric. Another teacher, Rich Long, was there to help him get into the science lab, and that's where he passed while they were waiting for help. Now, 911 dispatchers were actually telling him and the students that were in there that they were getting help to just, to wait, but unfortunately no help ever came. Another teacher, Doug Johnson, he wrote the sign that I was mentioning earlier, that one of the students posted on the classroom window that said 1 bleeding to death. That was him. And unfortunately, like I said, the sign was kind of like ignored because he ended up dying 3 hours later from blood loss. And his last words reportedly were, "Tell my family I love them." His daughter, Angela, spoke at his funeral and said, "What you did in that school on Tuesday was an amazing act of heroism. Even after you were hurt, you continued to be the brave, selfless man we all knew you were." In an article, she said, "The kids that he saved now have children, and those children will have children. Generations will know they exist because of his bravery." Now, from those who escaped with injuries to those forever changed, emotionally from this, their lives have obviously carried a weight of that day. Valine Val Schnur, which I've mentioned her before, she was actually shot in the chest and abdomen while she was waiting in the library with her friend Lauren. She fell to the floor and managed to play dead. After she was shot, though, she was the victim in the library who cried out, "Oh my God, oh my God." And then when Dylan asked her if she believed in God, she said yes, and he walked away. That was her. She actually wrote her own personal experience in an anthology titled Stories for a Teen's Heart, giving a very reflective and personal account of those traumatic events. I kind of want to read it. She calls it Triumph Over Tragedy. Graduation day was a sweltering Saturday afternoon in May. Sitting with 400 of my classmates in an outdoor amphitheater, I was hot in my cap and gown. I had looked forward to this day for months. The past 4 years at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado had gone quickly. My days had been filled with studies, work as a peer counselor, school clubs, and lots of time with my friends. Today we were celebrating our accomplishments. We were celebrating life. I listened as speaker after speaker came to the podium, speaking of the future, remembering the past. A loud foghorn sounded in the audience, and I grinned as a beach ball was tossed from person to person across the crowd. For a moment, just a moment, this graduation day seemed almost like the day I had envisioned. Then I watched as the parents of my friend Lauren Townsend made their way across the stage with pride on their faces. They accepted a diploma for Lauren, a class valedictorian, and once again I realized how much things had changed since the awful day 4 weeks before. My life and the lives of thousands of others had changed on April 20th, 1999. I had just gone to the library that morning, as was custom that semester. I met 5 other girls from English class there. Sometimes we worked on studies, other times we just talked. I sat down to read a new book for peer counseling while my friends sat nearby working on an English project. Then suddenly, a teacher came running into the library. "Everybody get down," she screamed. "There's a kid with a gun." At first, my friends and I thought it must be a senior prank. Then from the floor beneath us, we heard the sound of screaming and gunfire. The floor shook as bombs went off below our feet. My friends and I drove beneath a table. I was closest to Lauren. In fear, we grasped hands, clutching each other tightly. I began to pray silently, begging God to help us. "It'll be okay," Lauren said over and over as we clung to each other. Then we heard the gunmen, who we later learned were 2 boys from our own school, enter the library. They laughed as they shot students at random. I cried and hid my face behind a thick beam that went across the underside of the table. I continued to pray desperately. Then I felt smearing pain as gunfire hit me. The force of it knocked me out from under the table. "God help me," I screamed, and then looked up directly at the gunmen. "Do you believe in God?" one of them demanded. At first, I was terrified to say yes, but then I knew I couldn't lie. "Yes," I said. "Why?" they asked, taunting. I mumbled, now in a daze from my own wounds. "It's what my parents have taught me. It's what I believe." Then I hid under the table again, weak from blood loss and hoping they would leave me alone. Miraculously, they turned away and eventually left the library. "Lauren," I said, nudging my friend who still lay beneath the table. "We can go now. They're gone." But Lauren didn't move. "Wake up," I tried again. "They're gone." There was no response. Maybe she passed out, I thought. Then peeking over Lauren, I saw students running out an emergency exit. I was completely covered in blood, and I knew that I had been hurt badly. Bunching up the bottom of my shirt, I pressed it against my stomach, trying to stop the bleeding. I had to get out of there, hoping that someone could come back for Lauren. I mustered all my strength and ran out the door. I made it to a police car parked away from the building. A policeman and students were hiding behind the automobile, and I made it to the grass behind it and collapsed. Another student, a junior, noticed me there. Though wounded himself, he grabbed a sweatshirt and came over to me. "Hi," he said. "You're a senior, aren't you? Where are you going to school next year?" I tried to talk to him, but I cringed when he pushed the sweatshirt against my bleeding abdomen. At that moment, I hated him, not realizing that he was working to help save my life. Don't you go to sleep," the boy commanded. Finally, I was taken to the hospital where doctors prodded and poked at me. I was so scared and wanted my parents, Mark and Sherry Schnurr. Finally, they arrived. The doctors told them that I had 9 shotgun wounds and numerous shrapnel injuries. They were amazed I was alive. Divine intervention, they said, must have saved my life. The pain and the horrible shock of what I had been through was hard to deal with, but my parents did a good job of comforting me. They protected me from additional horror by keeping all newspapers away and the TV off. Famous people came to talk to me, flowers and cards for support poured in from all over the world. It was touching to see how much people cared, but even more comforting was seeing my parents, my 2 younger sisters, and my good friends, the people who truly care for me. I slowly began to heal, struggling to keep my faith and deal with the physical injuries. Then 4 days after the shooting, I asked my mom and a friend, "How's Lauren?" They were silent. I could see the answer in their faces, and I started crying. Lauren, smart, high-spirited Lauren, had died in the library. So much had been lost that day at Columbine. Lauren and 12 other innocent people lost their lives because the 2 killers shot themselves in the school. I spent a week in the hospital as I recovered from surgery, but the mental wounds ran much deeper. Questions continually raced through my mind. Why did they do it? Why did innocent people die? Why did Lauren die when I lived? Now, as I sat at graduation watching Lauren's family receive the diploma their daughter had earned, I knew there were no answers to those questions. 2 of the other girls who were with me in the library that day also were wounded, and I watched them receive their diplomas and begin a new part of their lives. Eventually, it was my turn to receive that hard-earned piece of paper. As my name was called and I took my diploma, I was surprised by the sound of clapping. Looking out, I saw the entire audience standing, sharing my joy of achievement, recovery, and a second chance at life. I know I lost a lot that day at Columbine, but that was only one day. There are so many other precious memories of high school, even though it was difficult. I'll always be thankful that I was well enough to attend the last 3 days of school my senior year. It was my way of taking back what had been stolen from me, my good memories of a great time in life. My faith in God has been strengthened since that day. I don't know why the shootings happened, but I do believe there is a reason I was spared. Good can overcome evil, and now I focus on what I can do with my life. Soon I'll begin college to become a teacher and later guidance counselor. I'm determined to try to help others. I don't want to forget, but instead want to work for change. Maybe someday I can be that person who reaches out to the student in need. Maybe I can make a difference in somebody else's life. Yeah, so that was the anthology that she wrote. Yes, that her about her personal experience, and it's a teen's heart that I wanted to share that because it just kind of adds more to, what happened that day and how she recovered from that and who she is now, because in the years following, she struggled with a lot of physical pain and trauma. And I mean, who wouldn't, especially after all that? But
let alone PTSD from all that.
Yeah, no, definitely. She actually chose to become a counselor and help others. So that's what she's doing now. Patrick Ireland, who was the boy in the window, who that's what they tied. Let me say that again.
Sorry. Boy in the window?
Ireland. Patrick Ireland, who was the boy in the window. That's what the news called him, where you see him being literally helped out from the window from SWAT. He was in the library. He miraculously made it there. I can't even believe 3 hours just to get to the window. Yeah. Because he was in and out of consciousness and he survived. He endured a lot of extensive rehab. He had to relearn to walk, talk, read, and write. They actually, this part, they crowned him homecoming king, and when he graduated. So there's actually photos of him walking with his homecoming crown. That's awesome. Yes, he graduated college and later worked. Now I think he's still working as a financial advisor. He has talked openly about he embraces forgiveness and resilience, and over time he has been pretty much a spokesperson for recovering and healing. And that's just another powerful example of overcoming the trauma that they had to endure with purpose and stuff.
I can only imagine for somebody like that, you were shot and then you crawled for 3 hours to be rescued. So at that point, to me, you've already endured some of the hardest, toughest pain of your life to just survive that moment.
Right.
So I'm sure from his perspective, he probably looked at it as, all right, cool. Now I just have to do the road to recovery, but at least I made it to here. Now it's downhill.
Yeah. Anne-Marie Hochhalter, she was eating outside near the cafeteria when she was shot. Her injuries, unfortunately, left her paralyzed from the waist down. Now life afterwards, she learned multiple instruments. She had a deep love for dogs, earned a business degree, and she became a very committed advocate for gun control and disability rights. She publicly forgave the mother of one of the shooters. I'm not entirely sure which one it was, but she did forgive them. She's also done speaking events. She's been very much in the public eye. Unfortunately, in this year, she passed away.
Damn.
In February, yes. And they ruled her death a homicide because it was due to medical complications that stemmed from her paralysis, which is from the shooting. So technically it is a homicide.
Another victim.
Yep. She modeled pretty much resilience, forgiveness, and empathy, and she was often counseling victims of other mass shootings and encouraging a lot of healing, which, I mean, I just can't even imagine enduring all that. And I mean, that just goes to show you, you know, at the end of the day, as much as what happened that day and the dark shadow that it brought, that it overcasted, a lot of these victims are still trying to find peace and light, and just to remember that light, like Rachel Scott said, light will always be.
You can always make it grow.
Yes, you can always make it grow. Now, Craig Scott was one of the survivors that day as well. He was hiding under the library table with his friend Isaiah and Matthew when he witnessed their deaths. He ended up becoming a national voice for Rachel's Challenge, which is what I told you that they opened up for her. He speaks widely about kindness, compassion, and the dangers of focusing on shooters over victims' stories, which valid, because I feel like growing up, I didn't hear too much about victims. No. It was always, you know, about the shooters. And that's why I wanted to take this time out too, to also give the victims a voice. And they're not, just remember them for who they were as people, not just, they died. They were a victim of Columbine. He continues his activism through speaking engagements and media. He is just a survivor who's always choosing advocacy. He's always emphasizing empathy as an antidote to violence. And he's really trying to carry Rachel's legacy and her voice and who she was as a person, because honestly, so many good people have passed away for no good reason.
Yeah.
And then Greg Barnes, like I said, he was in the school. He actually witnessed, like I said, Dave Sanders get fatally wounded. And he was really close with Matt Ketcher, one of those who was shot and killed. But unfortunately, he was struggling and he decided to take his own life. There's a lot of other survivors that have become advocates that I didn't get a chance to mention. Connie Sanders, like I said, Dave Sanders, it was his daughter. She was one of the ones who now she works as a therapist, and she actually works with Sue Klebold. Tom Mauser, he's still campaigning for gun control. Frank DeAngelis, the principal, he speaks out about public safety, public school safety and all that. So there's a lot of other survivors that I'm sure also don't feel comfortable coming up forward. It probably is a lot of repressed memories. It's probably things that they don't want to go back to.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to take a time out to mention everybody, because I mean, when I was learning about them as people, I was like, oh my God, what fucking beautiful human souls they were.
And I was going to say, I remember there was a number of times that I would be in the middle of my workday, and then all of a sudden I'd just hear,
because I was crying.
And I'm like, our desk face each other, so I can't see her easily. And so I would have to stand up and I'd pause my music or whatever I was doing, and I'd look around. You okay? Yeah, it's just the case that I'm covering. It's always intimidating sometimes to hear you cry, because then I think, damn, how freaking heavy of a case is this game ready to be?
And wasn't I right?
That's true.
Yes. I know.
It's either how heavy is the case, or is it involving animals?
Yes, I can't. Or children. Oh my God. Or just fucking innocent people. Jeez. It's just because
I know.
People just piss me off, but
Okay. Ring it in.
I'm ringing it in. Now, every year on April 20th, people gather for vigils. They, still hold moments of silence and ceremonies. The first anniversary drew national focus on pretty much healing. By the 5th and 10th anniversary, the emphasis really had shifted on just remembering the victims, remembering them rather than victimhood, which that's another thing. A lot of, I mean, and of course, like if your family member died or someone that died from this tragic event, I'm sure they get tired of being called victims, because, they don't have any power in that sense.
You just want to remember them, not... Yeah. You don't want them to be remembered as, they were just part of the shooting.
Right. You want to remember who they were. You'd rather
remember, they just passed.
Yeah, they passed. Unfortunately, we know that this is a dark cloud, but this is who they were as people before them. Remember their legacy instead. Yes. On the 20th anniversary in 2019, Jefferson County actually considered demolishing the school, because apparently it's been attracting dark tourism. So I guess it's people that go there just for that, which is... like, really,
that's fucked up.
Yeah, don't fucking do that shit.
But the thing is that, and it's fucked, but think about The Vegas shooting.
Oh.
They had to board up that whole entire... They literally removed the door.
That's true.
They're still away.
Didn't they close the whole floor?
They had closed the whole floor at one point, but the whole floor's reopened except for that room. But what they did was they refurbished it to where I believe there's still a way to get into that room, but I can't remember exactly how.
Yeah.
But they basically made it to where that door, entrance door, is now a wall.
It's not there. Yeah. Like there's no way that you can even go in there.
Yeah.
Yep. And so ultimately they decided, we're not going to demolish the school, but we are going to preserve it while just improving security.
Yeah.
Because that's what they can do. And I just want to say that Columbine wasn't the first school shooting in America. I know a lot of people think that for some reason, but a lot of other school shootings had happened prior. It's just that now... This
one was one of the big ones that reached...
It was a mass
national,
school shooting, yes.
If not worldwide news.
Yes, and you also have to remember, back in the day, the way that we have news is not the way we get news now. It's at our fingertips now. We can Google it. Everybody's in the know. It's so easy to spread information. So easy to spread the news. If there's a shooting...
Socials were not a fucking thing. Well, MySpace was.
Yeah, but that wasn't a thing. Yeah, but it wasn't a thing in the sense of now.
Like this. No.
Yes. Where
MySpace back then was just a place you shared your music and more or less what you were doing with life.
Exactly. And now if there's a shooting in Iraq, we hear it. If there's a shooting anywhere, we hear it. It doesn't matter how big
or small or if somebody died, it's getting some type of coverage.
Yeah.
Versus back then, it always had, I feel like it always had to be such a massive story to get
for it to get coverage. Yes, because there was only so many slots during the day.
Think about hurricanes.
Yeah.
How many hurricanes did we go through? But then I remember the first hurricane that I remember actually seeing news coverage was Katrina.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, because then they also had celebrities talking about it. So it had a lot of light on it. And that's why I feel Columbine kind of became almost like a cultural turning point. Like I feel, like I said, if you were born in the 90s, you've heard of the Columbine shootings. One of the things that I was reading too was that even after 26 years later, the echoes of that day are clearly still with us, with a lot of people. They live in the policy changes. They live in the memorial. They live in the survivors' voices and in the stories of the 13 who never were able to make it home. Yeah. And when we do say their names, when we tell who they are, we are taking back a little bit of what the killers wanted, which is
100%.
They wanted to be remembered for what they did. And at the end of the day, we choose to remember the people that they could never erase, even though that's what they wanted to do. I truly hope that I was able to cover everything in this case. I mean, I spent so much time digging. There's a lot of tears that went into this as well, into these stories, because I just wanted to make sure that the people that we talk about are remembered as more than just the names of the headlines or victims. My goal is always to honor those that we speak about, to serve their memory with respect, and also shed lights on the truths of these cases so that their stories also continue to be heard. I know I can't capture every single detail, and sometimes I really beat myself up in doing that. I know Tom can attest to it, because I'm always like, I just want to make sure that I'm covering this the way that it should be covered. It deserves to be covered.
I've met some perfectionists, but man, is my wife a perfectionist.
I have to tell myself a mantra right before to, because these are just real people's lives, and I feel like it's if I'm going to be saying them, I want to do it to the best of my ability, and just know that I do my very best every time, hoping that I am speaking right to their legacy and who they were, so we can all continue to keep their legacies alive together. And one of the things that I also want to mention is I remember when I was in college, the first time where I guess it kind of hit me that a school shooting could happen to me was when I was in college, and a college professor of mine told me, well, she kind of was telling the whole class. She said she was going to have a sheriff come in and kind of talk to us to just kind of know our options. At that time, I've always heard of school shootings. I've always seen them. A lot of times you think, oh, that could never happen to me. Okay, never think that way, because I thought like that, but I didn't really know anything. I thought I did. I was like, okay, school shooting, what can I do? I don't know. I never thought further than that. I just thought school shooting, okay. I saw the terror. I grew up knowing about Columbine and all that. And I was like, oh man, that's horrible. I hope that doesn't happen to me or anywhere else. As I kind of got older, I started noticing more. When I was in college, my professor brought in a sheriff, and he was pretty much telling us our options. And I'm like, options, which I want you guys to also know as well, because I didn't know. I really didn't know. So if you are ever in a situation like that, you have 3 options. You can either run for your fucking life, run for your life and get the fuck out of there. You can either hide anywhere that you are not in the line of fire, or you can fight. So those are 3 options you have there. And that's completely entirely up to you for what you choose to decide when you are in a situation like that. But I remember when he told us that, it kind of gave me a little bit more of control of the narrative. If I was ever in a situation like that, I kind of have an idea of what I need to do. So 3 things, if you guys ever find yourself, I hope you guys never, ever, ever do. 3 things. You can either run, you can hide, or you can fight. Now, before we end today's episode, we wanted to take a moment to extend our deepest condolences to every single person who was affected by the tragedy at Columbine that day, the survivors, those that we are remembering today, their families, their friends, and everyone who still carries the weight of what happened. I mean, when we say it, our heart goes out to you guys. I know we always hear thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's holes in people's hearts that they're never going to be able to be filled. They might be able to be mended a little bit, but it's never going to be the same.
Right. And I wasn't even there. I wasn't even affected by that, but that still sticks with me. That's what's so crazy. Yeah. So I can't even imagine those who were actually there. You know, like I said, I do still think about it every year, just because I just so happen. It's just a thing I know now. Like when it's April, I know my sister's birthday there. I do think the day after, I'm always like, I wonder how they are doing, how people are doing that day. And if you are listening right now and you're struggling with heavy thoughts, if you're having a tough time, just please know you're not alone. I mean, if you want to talk to us, you can talk to us. Like
for real.
We are here, but there are resources and people ready to listen and to help. And if you are in the United States, you can dial 988 to connect with the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline anytime, day or night. They work around the clock. If you're outside the U.S., please check for local hotlines and services near you. I'm not entirely sure about the U.S., but I do know 988. And also about Logic's song, about the suicide song of his hotline. It was like 18. I forgot the name of it.
The whole point of the song was to remember the number.
I want to leave you with this, though. Please be kind to one another. Always assume positive intent. The world is already hard enough. Let's not make it harder than we need to do it for each other. Okay, you truly never know what someone else is carrying inside, or even the smallest act of kindness really does mean the world. I've learned through a lot of these stories that I've just researched on myself, because I've always been very curious about all the macabre and the stories out there. And I know there's a lot of you there. And even through life in itself, that pain often does hide in plain sight. A lot of times we don't know what people are going through. We could be thinking that they're having a great day and they're not. One of my sister's close friends once took her life, and it was a stark reminder that sometimes even when people seem okay, they're silently fighting battles that we can't see. So please just be kind. Check in on those that you love. Check in extra on those that, I don't know, they haven't been around in a while. And just be that person that someone can turn to when they feel alone, okay? So that's what we wanted to say right before we close off. Thank you for joining us today on Macabre Mondays. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you know more about today's episode or caught a detail we might have missed, let us know.
What up? We'd love to hear from you. Again, I say this every time. If you have a story that's strange, sinister, or downright spooky, or, in the case of today's episode, something that you just want us to fucking cover, send it in. You can email us at macabremondayspodcast@gmail.com, or head over to macabremondays.com to submit your story. Yours just might be featured in an upcoming listener episode.
Follow us on social media by searching Macabre Mondays for photos of today's episode, updates, and a little extra spooky fun. We'll see you next Monday for another sinister, strange, and spooky episode. Stay tuned. More mystery is just around the corner. But until then, stay curious and stay safe. Bye,
Peace
everyone.
Up,